Well, I guess it's good afternoon, boys and girls. I am so sorry that I missed seeing you yesterday on Zoom. Miss Hill just misunderstood, but I'm here today, and whenever you want to watch this, we are going to continue Jumanji. Now, I want you to think in your mind, what have we already found out about the book Jumanji by Chris Van Allsburg? If you remember, first of all, the names of the main characters are Peter and Judy, and their parents leave them home alone, and they go to the park. And in the park, they find a game, Jumanji. That's what they find. And they want to go home and play it. So that's what they did. And they found out that they had to play to the very end, or else the game was just going to keep going. So that's where we are. It is Peter's turn. And remember, this is a Caldecott Award winner. And so it won awards for the wonderful, wonderful illustrations. So Peter is counting 4, 5, 6. Bitten by a tsetse fly, contract sleeping sickness, lose one turn. Judy heard a faint buzzing noise and watched a small insect land on Peter's nose. Peter lifted his hand to brush the bug away and then stopped, gave a tremendous yawn, and fell asleep. Bam! His head hit the table. "Peter, Peter, wake up!" cried Judy, but it was no use. She grabbed the dice and moved to a blank. She rolled again and waited in amazement. Rhinoceros stampede, go back 2 spaces. Oh no! And as fast as Peter had fallen asleep, he woke up. Together they listened to the rumble in the hallway. It grew louder and louder, and suddenly a herd of rhinos charged through the living room and into the dining room, crushing all the furniture in their path. Peter and Judy covered their ears as sounds of splintering wood and breaking china filled the house. Oh my heavens, this is worse than the Cat in the Hat when their parents left, their mother left them. Peter gave the dice a quick tumble. "Python sneaks into camp, go back 1 space," Judy shrieked and jumped up on her chair. "Over the fireplace," said Peter. Judy sat down again, nervously eyeing the 8-foot snake above the fireplace, wrapping itself around the mantel clock. The guide looked up from his map, took one look at the snake, and moved to the far corner of the room, joining the monkeys on the couch. Remember, they had monkeys. Monkeys were in the beginning of the book. So here, oh, did you see the snake? The snake is up here. And because the pictures are black and white, but have such depth, you can see the details. Judy took her turn and landed on a blank space. Her brother took the dice and rolled 3. "Oh no," he moaned. "Volcano erupts. Go back 3 spaces." The room became warm and started to shake. And then molten lava poured from the fireplace opening. It hit the water on the floor, and the room filled with steam. Judy rolled the dice and moved ahead. "Discover shortcut. Roll again." "Oh dear," she cried. Judy saw the snake unwrapping itself from the clock. "If you roll a 12, you can get out of the jungle," said Peter. "Roll, roll, quick, quick." "Please, please," Judy begged, "please." So she shook the dice. The snake was wriggling across the floor to get her, and she dropped the dice from her hand. Excuse me. And 1 6, then another. Judy grabbed her piece, slammed it on the board, and yelled, "Jumanji!" And she yelled it as loud as she could. Oh my heavens. And then, oops, Miss Hill can't get the page turned. The steam in the room became thicker and thicker. Judy could not even see Peter across the table. Then, as if all the doors and windows had been opened, a cool breeze cleared the steam from the room. Everything was just as it had been before. No monkeys, no guide, no water, no broken furniture, no snake, no lion roaring upstairs, no rhinos. Without saying a word to each other, Peter and Judy threw the game into the box, bolted out the door, ran across the street to the park, and dropped the game under the tree. Back home, they quickly put all their toys away, but both children were too excited to sit quietly, so Peter took out a picture puzzle. As they fit the pieces together, their excitement slowly turned to relief and then exhaustion. With the puzzle half done, Peter and Judy fell sound asleep on the sofa. So here's the picture of them running out of the house to take that game back, because they certainly don't want that game. They are done. Wake up, dears, Mother's voice called. Judy opened her eyes. Mother and Father had returned, and their guests were arriving. Judy gave Peter a nudge to wake him up. Mother introduced her guest. Did you have an exciting afternoon, she asked? And Peter said, oh, yes, we had a flood and a stampede and a volcano, and I got sleeping sickness, and Peter was interrupted by adults' laughter because, of course, they did not believe him. Well, I think you both got sleeping sickness. Go upstairs and put on your pajamas, and then you can finish your puzzle and have some dinner. So the adults didn't even believe them. When Peter and Judy came downstairs, they found that Father had moved the puzzle into the den. While the children were working on it, one of the guests, Mrs. Budwing, brought them a tray of food. Such a hard puzzle, she said. My children, Daniel and Walter, are always starting puzzles, but they never finish. They never read the instructions either. Oh, well, I guess they'll learn. Both children answered, I hope so, but they really weren't looking at Mrs. Budwing. They were looking out the window. They saw two boys running through the park. It was Daniel and Walter Budwing. Oh no, and Daniel had a thin box under his arm. So Jumanji continues and continues and continues. So now we talked about how to retell a story, and we're not together, so I can't really ask you questions, but I want you to think. First of all, you talk about the two main characters. Peter and Judy were left home alone. Next, the beginning of the story. Peter and Judy, they pull out all their toys, they get bored with their toys, so they go to the park. And in the park, they find a game. In the middle of the story, what happens? Think about it. You could even think about it in the correct sequence. They come back and they read the instructions and they start playing the game. And the first thing that happens is the lion. And then you can think in sequence. What comes next? What comes next? What comes next? And finally, they have the volcano. And at the end of the book, Judy rolls a 12, and she gets to Jumanji, and everything disappears, and the house goes back to the way it was. And thank goodness that happens before the parents get home, and they wonder what would have happened if Mom and Dad had got home and the house had been a mess. But Peter told his parents all about it, and they laughed. They didn't believe him. They just didn't believe him. I hope you enjoyed Jumanji. Next week, we're going to read another wonderful book, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and also we are going to be working on retelling the story. Listen, y'all have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to being with you again next week. Thank you.